It turns out that just a day earlier, Rocky happened to see a news report. She learned that the blind veteran, Josh, had lost his daughter in a drunk driving accident caused by a wealthy young man. As compensation, Josh had received $1 million. Tempted by the money, Rocky immediately urged her partners, Money and Alex, to steal it. The three of them staked out Josh's neighborhood. They noticed that the area was remote and deserted. Apart from Josh, there were no other residents, and since Josh was blind, they believed the plan would be easy. They decided to make their move in the middle of the night. On the night of the break-in, the trio first tossed drug-laced meat to Josh's guard dog. Once the dog fell into a deep sleep, the petite Rocky climbed through a window into the house. She used a remote to disable the alarm system, then let Money and Alex inside to avoid making noise. They even took off their shoes before entering. They quickly split up. Rocky and Alex searched for the cash, while Money headed toward Josh's bedroom, intending to use a sleep-inducing smoke to make him rest even deeper. But as Money approached the bed with the drug, he suddenly realized that Josh was already sitting up. Fortunately, Josh really couldn't see. He had just gotten up to switch off the TV. Seeing Josh lie back down and go to sleep again, Money finally let out a sigh of relief. He set the drug on the floor, quietly closed the bedroom door, and tiptoed away. Downstairs, they found a locked door. They figured the $1 million must be inside. Money got excited and pulled out his tools, trying to break the lock by force. No matter how hard he tried, the lock wouldn't budge. Frustrated, Money lost his patience. He pulled out the handgun from his waistband. Alex rushed over to stop him, warning that if they were caught carrying a gun during a break-in, the homeowner would legally have the right to shoot them. But Money, blinded by greed, ignored the warning. He assumed Josh was still asleep in his room, and without hesitation, pulled the trigger, blasting the lock open with a deafening gunshot. The loud gunshot made Alex uneasy. Sensing something was wrong, he turned and walked out of the house. Just as Money opened the door in excitement, he was startled to see Josh suddenly standing in the doorway. Both men froze in place. In panic, Money pretended he was drunk and had wandered into the wrong house. But Josh, a former military scout, wasn't fooled. He slowly stepped forward, instantly sensing there was an intruder in his home. Realizing his cover was blown, Money raised his gun and threatened Josh to hand over the cash, but the battle-hardened Josh showed no fear. By listening to the gunshot earlier, he had already pinpointed Money's exact location. Terrified, Money began to plead for his life. When Josh demanded to know if there were others in the house, Money glanced toward the trembling Rocky hiding nearby, and lied that he was acting alone. Witnessing this terrifying scene, Rocky was frozen in fear. She quickly hid inside a closet, covering her mouth tightly so she wouldn't make a sound. Fortunately, Josh didn't notice her presence. He turned and went to the other room, the very place where Rocky and the others had been desperately searching for the cash. Josh entered the code on the safe, but Rocky, hiding in the closet, saw the numbers clearly. Greed instantly overpowered her fear. She quietly texted Alex, who had just left, telling him she knew where the money was hidden, and urging him to come back and help. Worried about Rocky's safety, Alex immediately returned after receiving the message. As he stepped back inside, he nearly bumped into Josh. Luckily, he reacted quickly and hid just in time. Rocky hurriedly led Alex to the safe, entered the code she had memorized, and stuffed the entire $1 million into a backpack. Just as they were about to look for an exit, Josh suddenly opened the door and walked in. The two froze in place, not daring to move. Fortunately, Josh couldn't see and didn't notice them. But what they didn't know was that, although Josh was blind, his sense of smell was incredibly sharp. Soon, he detected the odor of unfamiliar shoes. Following the scent to the doorway, he discovered 3 pairs of shoes that didn't belong to him. Realizing something was terribly wrong, he hurried back to check the safe. Sure enough, the money was gone. Meanwhile, Rocky and Alex, searching for a way out, unknowingly wandered into the basement, and there, they were stunned by what they saw. A pregnant woman was being held captive in the darkness. Only then did they realize they hadn't broken into an ordinary home. They had stepped right into a wolf's den. Alex wanted to grab Rocky and run, but Rocky insisted on taking the captive woman with them. Left with no choice, Alex helped untie her restraints. What they didn't know was that the woman's struggling had triggered a warning system set up by Josh. At that very moment, Josh was already standing at the basement entrance, gun in hand. When Alex opened the basement door, Josh reached out with trembling hands and felt that the pregnant woman was no longer breathing. Fury surged through him. That woman had been the one who, years ago, caused his daughter's death in a drunk driving accident. Because her family was wealthy, she hadn't served a single day in prison. Josh had kidnapped her, forcing her to carry a child as a twisted way to seek redemption for his daughter. Now, with just 2 months left before the baby's birth, his plan had been ruined by these intruders. Enraged, Josh swore to make them pay. He locked the basement door, turned off every light in the house, and began a relentless hunt in the darkness. The 2 intruders fled upstairs in panic, only to find that the guard dog they had sedated earlier was now awake. Terrified, they bolted into a room on the 2nd floor. Using a wardrobe to barricade the door, they wanted to escape through the window, but found it sealed tight with iron bars. The only way out was the ventilation duct on the ceiling. Alex told Rocky, who was smaller in size, to crawl through the duct first, while he stayed behind to buy her time. Soon, the locked door was forced open. The dog lunged at Alex, biting fiercely. In the chaos, Alex slipped and fell out of the window. Fortunately, he survived the fall, but as soon as he got back on his feet, he saw Josh aiming a gun at him from the staircase. A bullet grazed Alex's arm. He ducked behind a cabinet for cover. Josh, however, didn't realize that the person he had hit earlier was actually Money's lifeless body. By sheer luck, Alex escaped death once again. Meanwhile, Rocky was crawling through the ventilation duct. She finally reached an exit, but just as she was about to squeeze through, Josh grabbed her and yanked her down. He struck her hard several times, but instead of killing her, he dragged her back to the basement, tying her up and hanging her in place. Josh intended for Rocky to replace the dead woman. He took a pair of scissors and cut her pants. Then he retrieved a small bottle of white liquid from the freezer, warmed it carefully over a flame, and drew it up into a tube. Seeing this, Rocky instantly realized what he was planning. She thrashed and screamed in terror. It was clear now Josh wanted her to take the woman's place. Just when Rocky was about to lose all hope, Alex appeared in the nick of time. He struck Josh from behind with a hammer, knocking him unconscious. Alex quickly untied Rocky's ropes, and even cuffed Josh's hands to restrain him. Overcome with rage, Rocky lashed out at Josh with punches and kicks. After venting her fury, the two grabbed the backpack full of cash and ran toward the exit. Rocky sprinted frantically, looking back and seeing no sign of Josh. She almost taunted him, but the guard dog suddenly charged at her. In the chaos, the backpack filled with $1 million fell outside the car. This was the money their friend had died for. She couldn't just abandon it. Rocky came up with a quick plan. She tied a rope to the trunk of the car, opened it to lure the dog inside, then quickly slammed the lid shut, trapping the animal inside. But as she stepped out of the car to grab the backpack, Josh suddenly appeared behind her and dragged her back once again, just when it seemed she was doomed. Rocky noticed the nearby alarm system. She pressed the remote control while Josh wasn't looking. A piercing alarm instantly blared through the house. The deafening noise disoriented Josh, causing him to fire wildly in all directions. Rocky seized the moment, grabbed her crowbar, and launched a fierce attack against him. After making sure Josh was no longer moving, she slung the backpack over her shoulder and fled the terrifying house before the police could arrive. Rocky thought she could finally use the money to start a new life, but not long after, she saw on the news that Josh hadn't died. He had been rushed to the hospital and saved. As she stared at Josh's image on the TV screen, a fresh wave of fear gripped her once again.